is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Let me just click this. Okay. I'm good. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? All right, here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here. We're broadcasting live from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Studio A. Information's on the website. So link to all of your instructors at USAPrepares.com. Podcasts are free on Genesis. So just go to USAPrepares.com, click on Listen to Vincent, and you can download the podcast for free. You can listen 24/7 on your smartphone. Information's on the website. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli, and Nathan. Nathan is with us today.
Hello.
He's producing the broadcast. He's producing the broadcast in Minnesota. Hey, meet up tonight. Meet up tonight, Ziggy's, 5:30. I'll be there. And we're going to teach self-defense. Now, you know, we talk about gardening, and we talk about gold and silver, and we talk about solar power, wind power, and economics. We talk about how to build LED lighting systems. We talk about farming. We talk about how to save money. Tonight, self-defense, physical self-defense. You're going to meet our newest instructor tonight. So be prepared to learn a lot. Bring your notebooks. 5:30 Ziggy's, Springfield, Missouri. Information's on the website. Today, Survival Economics with Frank Underhill, CEO, UnderhillSecurities.com. UnderhillSecurities.com, the trusted advisor of Bob Chapman. Welcome to the front of the classroom, Frank Underhill.
Glad to be here. I just would like to say I wish I could meet up at Ziggy's with you there and have a corned beef scramble with some poached eggs on it and listen to your guest.
Frank, you know what's interesting? I've talked to people and they say, "Geez, you know, I wish I lived near Springfield so I could come to those meetups every week." It's really true. People from all over have come to Ziggy's, looking for the meetup. And when they come to the expo, they want to stay extra. They want to stay past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because they want to see exactly what a meetup is. They want to see the camaraderie, and they want to meet some more of the instructors at the meetup. And it's a lot of fun. It really is. Frank, we've got some articles on the website, and I'll just go over the headlines. One of them is an armored SWAT team raids a farm after mistaking tomatoes for marijuana. Now, what the article does not say is that the farmers were held at gunpoint for 10 hours. It doesn't say that. Now, I know that. I know that they did. And as a matter of fact, we'll talk a little bit more about this on the second hour. But the farm that was raided, I know the farmer. And some of you do too. And here's what happened. This farmer was on the air with us on Friday. And he described what happened. It made the internet on Friday. And now the heat's on for the SWAT team that raided him and held these guys at gunpoint. And I hope he gets his day in court, and I hope he really puts a stop to these SWAT teams that are just out of control. We're going to talk more about that at the top of the next hour. Now, there's a Utah center, NASA center, NSA Center in Utah. And to cool the computers and to provide water for the employees, 1.7 million gallons of water a day to operate this. So not only are we tracking people, but we're wasting water doing it. Now, the government wants us to have these low flush toilets that don't flush, right? We got to have them. We have to replace our toilets so we can conserve water while they waste 1.7 million gallons of water a day. Out of control. And in New York City's police commissioner thinks that the court ruling that it is a violation of your rights to be stopped and frisked by the cops. Well, the police commissioner in New York City thinks that that will result in more crime. It's a crime to stop and frisk people. Now, how do you think the mayor of New York City or the police commissioner would react if they were stopped on the street by the community and the community said, hold it, stop right there. We're going through your pockets. We're going to pat you down. We're going to put our hands down your pants like you guys do. How do you think that would work? You think they would allow that? Page 3. Princess Diana. Now, many of us believe that Princess Diana was murdered, and we also have some thoughts on why. I think that she was murdered for a couple reasons. One, because she might have married someone that the royal family didn't like. Another reason, which might be as important or more important, is that she was anti-landmines, and she wanted to put a stop to landmines. Now, the military-industrial complex likes landmines, right? Who in their right mind would plant a ticking time bomb somewhere that would kill, injure, maim, wound? Who would do that? What kind of a sick person would do that? Well, I believe that some of those people are involved in the murder of Princess Diana. The article says Princess Diana, conspiracy theory. It may be fact. Frank, Dr. Norman Shealy has been on the bandwagon to stop people from drinking soda. Sometimes it's called pop or soda pop. Well, there's a post that says soda consumption could lead to violent behavior in children. Interesting. And children are getting more and more violent. There's no question about it. Oakland, California. The residents are hiring private security. Why are they doing that? Why are people resorting to hiring private security to patrol their neighborhoods? Because crime's out of control. Out of control. And Baltimore, Maryland, they're doing the same thing. And who are they hiring? Well, naturally, they would hire off-duty cops, right? What are they thinking? So the cops can't do it in the first place, so they hire them. So they hire them to protect them because they can't protect them when they're being paid for it. It's unbelievable. What are these guys thinking? Frank, I'm going to share something with you. When we had a couple of our expos in Springfield, we were told that, if you're going to have gold, you're going to have silver, you're going to be a lot of people who are out of control, and you're going to need to hire the police. So we followed that advice. Frank, here's what's unbelievable. You would think that you could call the sheriff's office and say, hey, look, I'd like to rent a couple off-duty cops for 8-10 hours a day on a Friday and on a Saturday and on a Sunday. Can I have the names of a couple of those guys? And I'll give them a call and we'll work it out. Nothing doing. That's not how it works. Let me tell you how it works. It's price fixed. It's price fixed. You call the sheriff's office in Springfield, Missouri. You will talk to the person in charge of off-duty cops being hired. And you will pay their rate. There is no negotiation. It's not like someone you hire to cut the lawn, and you say, hey, how much will you charge me to cut the lawn? They say $100, and you go, well, whoa, that's pretty high. How about 50? You're only talking a third of an acre. How about 50? No. They determine the rate. It's $25 an hour. $25 an hour to hire an off-duty cop. And it doesn't matter which one you get. Junior, senior, doesn't matter. They're $25 an hour. I think there's something inherently wrong with that. I don't like it. So those are some of the posts on the website that I wanted to share with you. There are more. Frank, we need to talk about precious metals. Gold. Gold is on the rise.
Well, the dollar is drifting, as we've said on the prior, like I think six programs. And gold, I think, reached a high of 1385. Now, that's a big move off the bottom. However, I still believe that there is still some more upward movement for it, just simply because the dollar is drifting. Now, you have a day like today where gold is down, but also I believe the dollar is down a little bit too. Excuse me. So basically, there probably is still movement for gold. And actually, I think silver, we're talking, it was like $20, under 20, and now it's like 23. That's also a very large percentage move as well, too, in a very short period of time.
Well, I like it. I like it because it's in concert with the inflationary print that Bernanke did and Alan Greenspan did. Frank, I'd like to share some numbers with you. Let's talk a little bit about silver. Silver's picking up steam, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Over the weekend, I have a trusted instructor who has his finger on the pulse of what's happening in the gold and silver physical market. Absolutely has his finger on the pulse of it. Now, at the time that I talked with him yesterday, spot price was $23.25. I'm going to tell you what the real numbers are if you want to buy silver dollars. The real numbers when we come back. What they are and what they should be based on the published numbers for the price of silver. The real deal. Vincent Finelli, Frank Underhill, USA Prepares. We'll be right back. Class, Frank Underhill's with us, and we're talking about precious metals right now. And I want to share some real numbers with you. These are real numbers. Over the weekend, yesterday, the price of silver was at $23.25 per ounce. 23.25 spot price. And based on that spot price, when you consider that, and I'm just going to use rough numbers here, that a silver dollar would contain about 3/4 of an ounce of silver. The price of a silver dollar should have been in an ugly condition. I'm talking about a cull, something that'd be your last choice if you were to pick one out of a pile. At the spot price of $23.25 an ounce, a cull silver dollar, U.S. silver dollar, should sell for about $18. They don't. They sell for $25. Now, these are general prices in the marketplace, okay? So an $18 silver dollar based on the spot price at $23.25 on Sunday should be selling at $18. It sells at $25. An XF condition should sell at $22. Physically, if you want one, about $30. And the condition of an uncirculated silver dollar should be about $30. They're selling at $40. What I'm telling you is the premiums are pretty high. And I'm telling you that people are buying these, and they're driving the price up. They don't believe these paper numbers, Frank. That's what I'm saying. They don't believe it. We've been saying this for a long time. And even when silver dipped and dipped and dipped and dipped, We said it was going to come back. And here it is. Here it is, Frank. The overall trend is up, up, up. And silver's gained about 20% in the last 30 days. So you were right. You were right, Frank. Good for you. And
Well,
I didn't sell.
No, well, people who buy these kind of assets are generally in it for duration and over time. There aren't many on the retail level. There are not many in and out day traders in it. In the bigger league, obviously. So when the retail investor buys their silver, buy their gold, they basically buy it and they put it away and they just accumulate it regardless what the price is. And over time, the premises they'll have an asset there that they can convert into cash if needed, or if not, like in some cases, like this fellow here in Reno, he died with his gold, all intact, and now Now the state is auctioning it off now. Unbelievable. A dead man, they're robbing his grave by auctioning a dead man's metals. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that for a minute, Frank. So if a person has precious metals, first of all, you have to have trust within your family. And if you do, you can have precious metals privately. You can keep them somewhere physically that you control. And I'm not talking about a safety deposit box. I do not have a safety deposit box. I have never had a safety deposit box. I don't want one. A safety deposit box is in the control of somebody else. We have a key. Yeah, big deal. But they've got the box and they've got the brick and mortar around it and they've got the safe around that. So I don't want a safety deposit box. If I have it, it's going to be stored someplace where I can get to it. And I suggest that you consider that too, class. So if you put your money in precious metals, make sure that some family members know where it is. It's private. It's private.
Well, you look at the fact that this Walter Samsko, he had $7 million worth of gold in his house, and the state still comes along and wants to grab it. You get the Carson City controller involved in it. It's ridiculous. Even in death, things are not less sacred. The government still wants their piece.
They don't want to. Frank, their piece is like 100%.
And if he wanted to leave it to somebody, he would have.
Yeah. Right. Frank Underhill and I will be right back after the bottom of the hour commercials. We're talking more about gold and silver. We'll be right back. Class, we don't do this very often, but it's homework time. It's homework time. And we're assigning some homework for you. Over the last few days, I had the opportunity to watch a television series on a DVD set. You know that I don't watch television. This DVD set, it's the complete series. It's called Last Resort. Last Resort. Honor in Defiance. And there's a U.S. ballistic submarine, the Colorado. And it was ordered through a back channel to launch a nuclear weapon at Pakistan. Now, this is fiction. This is fiction. Well, the captain decided that this back channel order to vaporize Pakistan was suspect. And he wanted verification, and he couldn't get the verification through the normal channels. So he decided not to launch the strike. So the strike was launched from someplace else. We did it. In this fiction series, the United States nuked Pakistan and blamed the USS Colorado for doing it. And then the media jumped on it, and it looked like the Colorado had gone crazy. The captain and crew of the Colorado launched this fictional strike against Pakistan. And the United States military was on a hunt for the Colorado. The captain was declared a traitor, an enemy of the state. So there was this massive manhunt, sub-hunt, and the U.S. Navy and the Air Force were called in. And they were going to find the sub, and they were going to kill the captain and the crew. Because it was all a lie. This series is about crossing, double crossing, triple crossing, quadruple crossing. It is what President Dwight David Eisenhower warned us about. The ever-expanding military-industrial complex. You won't believe what you see. It is up there as one of my two very favorite series. Jericho is the first, and this one is the second. They're both truly outstanding. So if you want to watch two videos, Jericho and Last Resort, both of them will open your eyes. And they did not have a follow-up second season. They couldn't. Because what you're going to learn will make you absolutely furious. If you think any of this could be real, you will be furious at the lies and the deception that you will see is absolutely, positively possible. Last Resort, Honor in Defiance. I suggest that you buy it, rent it, watch it on Netflix, whatever you have to do. But I can tell you this. If you decide to pursue this, you will not be able to stop watching it. You'll want to watch episode after episode after episode, and within 2 days, you're going to want to see it all. And you probably will, if you have the time for it. Last Resort, Honor and Defiance. Frank, it's unbelievable. So I know you haven't had a chance to watch it. It's recent. It's 2012, 2013. So it's not like 5 years old. It's brand new. Frank, when we talk about currency, the penny comes up. Now, in Canada, what happened?
They got rid of it.
Jeez.
Because it costs too much to make. So if it's, something costs, 3 cents, they round it to the nickel. If it's 2 cents, they round it down to the zero.
Yeah. Well, okay. So it costs too much to make a penny in Canada.
Yeah, and actually, it apparently works. Everyone's happy with it.
They've lost their minds.
No one misses it.
Well, how can that be? The only way, Frank, the only way you can miss a penny, the only way is if inflation is so high that you can round to the nearest nickel. That's the only way that you can miss a penny. And when I do our taxes, Frank, I do it to the penny. I don't round off to the nearest dollar because I feel that if it's mine, I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to give it to them. I'm not going to give them a penny they don't deserve. I'm going to work my calculations to the penny, the nearest penny. And that's as much as I want to round off because they don't deserve it. They'll just waste it. They'll just waste it. They've proven it over and over and over again. I'm not saying that I don't pay taxes. I do. I do pay taxes. But I don't want to give those guys any more than they deserve. And they get too much anyway. So as far as the penny's concerned, Frank, I just did a quick check. Penny, a 1909 through 1982 copper U.S. penny is worth 2.2 cents. Now, it used to be that half the pennies, a couple of years ago, you could get pennies, and about half of them were copper. And the percentage of copper in pennies, or the percentage of copper pennies in a pile of pennies is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But I advised our class to buy pennies, and I bought 50,000 of them. And that's only $500 worth, class. and half of those were copper. I'm not going to say what I did with them, but I was on a radio program, Frank, and I advised doing this about 3 years ago. And the talk show host that had me on the air with him said, well, I don't advise the destruction of currency. I said, oh, jeez. I didn't recommend destroying currency. I recommended collecting it, collecting pennies, because I said at some point, the U.S. government and other governments are going to stop making them. And here we are. Canada started, or they started the secession of making pennies. And we're going to follow. It's just a question of when. It's a question of when, because they're worth 2.2 cents apiece in copper. Now, how much does it cost to make them, Frank? That's the cost of the metal. That does not include the dyes, the minting, the labor, the packing, the shipping, the handling. I'll bet you they're about a nickel apiece by the time you add all the processing that's involved in making a penny. I'll bet it's close to a nickel. Is that possible?
Oh, absolutely. Especially with low copper prices, it's still possible. But I think they just did it as a move to reduce the cost of making money. And by the way, too, the people should be reminded that the dollar is a coin. They have a $2 bill, which is in the shape of a coin, and now they're talking about a $5 coin now and getting rid of the paper.
Well, they tried it with the Susan B. Anthony dollar. Nobody liked it. That was a real mess. And I mean, nobody wants a Susan B. Anthony dollar. They still like those paper dollars. But they're really trying to convince us, Frank, that a debit card is better than cash. It's better than cash, which I think is absolute nonsense. They tell you that
it's better than cash to the point where you get charged every time you use it.
Yeah.
So it's good for them. It's better for them. It's not good for you.
Right. And not only that, you have to transfer cash into an account so that you can use this pseudo-currency, the debit card, and every one of your purchases is tracked. So if you want to make sure that your government knows that you bought gasoline at a specific station and a specific number of gallons and a specific grade of gasoline at a specific time, go ahead. Use your debit card. But if you want anonymity, as I do, use cash. Is there any reason that anyone needs to know, seriously, when you bought gasoline, where you bought gasoline, on what days, what hours? Is it anybody's business to know what groceries that you buy? Is it anybody's? Well, use your debit cards and your credit cards, and they will know. They'll be able to track the transaction number at the grocery store, the supermarket, at the Chinese factory outlet, to your credit card. They know who you are and what you bought. And why did you buy 4 pounds of pasta? Why'd you do that? Who do you think you are? Are you hoarding? Why would you do that? Other people need to eat too. Who are these people, Frank? It makes me crazy. I want to share something with you. Our freezer compressor, we have a freezer. It's a 22 cubic foot. I bought it used. Class, if you want to buy a great freezer, you can find these on eBay. You can find them on Craigslist. And they're called an Imperial, IMPERIAL, commercial heavy duty. And what these were is this was a line of freezers that went along with a purchase of food. So you would commit to buy food, and it would be delivered, and you'd get the freezer, and you'd pay for it on time. And this company would fill up your freezer. Well, a lot of people stopped doing it because they realized it cost too much money to have this food delivered, this frozen food. So they're selling these commercial heavy-duty freezers. Now, they're no frills, absolutely no frills. They're not pretty. It's just a big white box with a great big heavy-duty door, great refrigeration system, foam insulation. It's a really good, no-frills freezer, but you have to defrost it, okay? So it's not self-defrosting. Okay, so here it is. And you can buy them from $200 or $300, somewhere around there. So somewhere around $200, you can pick one of these up. Well, we had one, and we've had it for years and years and years, and the compressor quit, just stopped working. And the alarm went off. The alarm went off and told us that the temperature inside was climbing and we were at risk of losing all the food. And I packed the freezer tightly. I mean tightly. You could not get another pound of butter in our freezer if you wanted to. It's impossible. Okay. So now you have the mental image. Well, the compressor quit. So I went to buy another one, but I found something called a 3-in-1 hot start or hard start. It's a kit for about $30 that you can put on your compressor. It takes about 10 minutes, and it will revive a non-working compressor in the majority of cases. I'll tell you a little bit more about that, and I'll tell you about this little trip I took to buy the freezer. Interesting. We'll be right back. Okay, class, I was telling you about this trip that I made to solve the problem with our freezer. So here we have a freezer full of food. The compressor won't start. The temperature's climbing, and I had to wait till the next day. And so I did some research on Sunday, and I found that I could put a compressor hard start kit on this freezer. And it's really simple. It takes about 10 minutes. You need some wire cutters, and you get everything that you need in this kit, and it's less than $30. I put it on, and the freezer was back to normal. The compressor started right up, started cooling. Everything was fine. So I'll post during this broadcast a link so that you can find out what I'm talking about. And I think you should get a compressor hard start kit for your refrigerator or freezer, because there are things known, there are known unknowns. You know what's going to happen. You know the refrigerator is going to quit. You know your freezer is going to quit. You just don't know when. So you might want to get one of these kits, and I had to pay about $30 because I needed one right then and there, and I did not have one. And so I bought one on eBay for $11.35, so I have a spare. I suggest that you consider getting one. And there are sizes that are for outside air conditioning systems, in the window air conditioning systems, refrigerators, freezers, refrigerator-freezer combinations, those devices for refrigeration that are run by electric compressors. So I suggest that you consider getting one. And so that was one thought. Next thought, Frank, you might find this interesting. Over the weekend, my son and I were driving, and we saw these guys on a bridge, on an overpass bridge. And they had a sign that said, impeach Obama. And it was basically honk if you agree. And I thought, boy, I'll bet there are a lot of people honking. So my son said, he was driving, and he said, Dad, I'll bet you they know you. And we were hundreds of miles from home. So he said, let's go say hi. So we get off of the next exit ramp and come around and the side access road, and we go to the overpass, and I said hi, and I said, hi, I'm Vincent Finelli. They knew who I was. They listened to the broadcast. And here's what it is, Frank. It's a whole bunch of people. There's an internet website called overpasses.org, overpasses.org. And they have one mission, just one mission, and that's to impeach the president. That's all they want to do. They want to impeach him. And what I'm saying here is, what a great way to get whatever the message is out. Just organize on the internet and have a bunch of volunteers show up with a big banner and get your message across. And, I wanted to say it this way, and I don't want anybody to take this wrong. These guys, and there were a whole bunch of them, they got volunteers. People drove by and said, hey, let me help out. Let me spend a couple hours, and I'll help you guys, and I'll hold the banner for a while. And there are several banners on both sides of the bridge. Here's the point. If you have a message to get out, it's a great way to do it. And how about a reaction to this? These guys had nothing better to do. They had nothing better to do than stand on this bridge in the hot sun and hold the banner. They had nothing better to do. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a positive way. When they thought about their time, they thought there's nothing more important than they could be doing than getting their message out. And their message was impeach the president. Interesting. So some of you may agree, some of you may disagree. What I'm saying is that may be a great medium for you to get your message out. Go on these overpasses. Don't obstruct traffic. Don't do that. Stay to the side, as these guys did. They were peaceful. They didn't cause any problems. Frank, what do you think about that?
It's free. People should be exercising more of that. It's free speech.
Frank, when we get back, can you tell us about the drifting dollar and what's going on with oil?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Thank you.
Oil. What's going on with the price of oil? We'll be right back.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2, USAPrepares.com. Frank, as I mentioned during hour number 1, I wanted to share something about a SWAT team raid. Now, an armored SWAT raid descended on a farm in Arlington, Texas. We talked about this on Friday. As a matter of fact, we brought on board the man whose farm was raided. He's become a USAPrepares.com instructor. And for 1 hour, he talked about what happened. He talked about what it was like to be at gunpoint by men with helmets, face masks, goggles, black uniforms, body armor, assault rifles, SWAT vehicles. These guys came in black. They descended on him and the others who lived on the farm, including a baby. They held him at gunpoint for 10 hours. They were handcuffed. The neighbors' houses were occupied by, we'll call them, the authorities, quote unquote. So 20 SWAT agents, government agents, and about 50 more descended on a community. They occupied houses surrounding this farm. They shut down the roads. They quarantined the area. They took the cell phones. They took all manner of communications from these people who lived on this farm that they raided. No telephone calls, no knock on the door. They just burst in at 7:40 in the morning. We talked about this. Quinn Eaker, E-A-K-E-R, was the man who was on the radio with us. The event made the internet Friday, and it's making the internet some more today. You can find the post at usaprepares.com, page 1. So what happened? Well, the authorities, on bad information, seem to have thought that tomato plants were marijuana plants, and they spent a fortune terrorizing unarmed people. Unarmed people. They said, well, you don't have your cars parked on pavement. By the way, there are some code violations. Some bushes need trimming. Ultimately, they decided that they had a mistake. Tomato plants for marijuana plants. They found no marijuana plants. They terrorized the families at this farm. It's out of control. Absolutely out of control.
Vincent, I think what we need to do to be ahead of the game here is stop calling them agents. They should be called Eingestein Polizei, stormtroopers, Gestapo. Mm-hmm. That is what they are, not agents. When they come in with black uniforms, the only thing they're missing are the skull and crossbones on the collar and the SS lightning bolts. That's the only difference.
The SS
if
rooms.
someone came, really, and they have helmets that look like SS helmets, they might as well have the SS embossed on that lower brim of the helmet there, and basically, when I hear of a tomato farmer, being confused for a marijuana grower, it's like they don't even go and ask the guy, what are you growing here? They just go in and, like you said, they occupy homes. Isn't there an amendment in the Constitution where soldiers are not allowed to occupy homes? They're not allowed to storm, right? And
Frank, this is the Arlington City Police, the Arlington, Texas City Police. Those are the guys that came in. But the going where you're going on this line of discussion, what are they doing with these uniforms anyway? What are they doing in full battle dress?
And they should rename it, instead of that Arlington Police, they should name it the Arlington Einsatzgruppen, because that's basically where we are heading.
These guys are terrorizing the community, absolutely terrorizing the community. Now, Frank, I'll tell you, when I lived in Virginia, a group of government thugs questioned my neighbors. They stopped at every neighbor's house. They did not identify themselves. They said, do you know this guy that lives over here? What does he do? Who is he? What's he like? They questioned all of my neighbors. And then I was teaching in school, and they showed up at the superintendent's office, and they said, we want to talk to this guy Finelli. Where is he? So the superintendent stops what he's doing, comes over to my classroom, which was the largest classroom in the school. My classroom was the size of a gymnasium. I was teaching advanced computer science, how to manufacture computers. Frank, I was running a factory within the school system. We sold $1,200,000 worth of computers in the first year. It was a big deal. These guys showed up at my class, and they demanded to talk to me right then and there. Pull me out of class. So my 60 students are looking at me like, what in the heck did Finelli do? The superintendent's wondering, what in the heck Finelli did? My neighbors are wondering, what did Finelli do that caused so much attention for these G-men, unannounced, unidentified, to show up? And they came into the class and they demanded that I step outside and talk to them. And I said, no way. Get out of my classroom. And they said, we have some questions for you. And they pulled out a surveillance map of my farm in Virginia. Frank, I lived a quarter of a mile off the road. I didn't build the house. I bought it that way. The driveway was a quarter of a mile long, and the house was surrounded on three sides by woods. They had a lot of questions for me, and I told them, take a hike. I said, I'm not answering any of your questions. If you want to know anything about my farm, all the information that you're going to get is at the county courthouse. And the rest of it's filed with the IRS. That's all you're getting, without a warrant. And I threw them out. Superintendent couldn't believe it. The class couldn't believe it. Next thing I did is I called my congressman. I said, some of your thugs came over here and they're harassing me, and they're not identifying themselves. And when you go to Walmart, boy, I must have hit my own button. When you go to Walmart, you can tell who works at Walmart because they have these smocks on. They have these vests on that say Walmart. These guys show up. I don't even know who they are. They won't identify themselves. They're harassing me. They're terrorizing my students. They're terrorizing the neighborhood. And they won't identify themselves. I said, I want you to find out who they are, and I want you to fire them. I called my congressman. And he got to the bottom of it and found out who they were. USDA. They got nothing better to do. Stay away from the USDA class. They're bad news. Bottom line, Frank, is these thugs, these paid government thugs, beat up by putting in handcuffs and putting a muzzle of guns with their finger on the trigger at Quinn Acre and the people that lived on the farm. Because they mistaked tomatoes, they say, for marijuana. That's pretty hard to do. Marijuana doesn't have red fruit. Hard to do.
So, and Vincent, it doesn't sound like a question A question is, do you know where this street is? This sounds more like you went through an interrogation.
They did. They did go through an
Yeah,
interrogation.
it's not questioning, it's interrogation.
At the muzzle of a gun. Now, they found no weapons. Now, that's really, really unusual, because I'll tell you what, if they go to just about any other farm, they will find guns. Because we farmers have guns. We protect our livelihood. We've always had guns. George Washington did. Thomas Jefferson did. James Madison. They all had guns because it's a lifestyle. They have to protect their farm because the sheriff isn't coming. As a matter of fact, the sheriff was probably in on this. The sheriff didn't defend these guys. The sheriff didn't stand between the city police and this farm. Frank, imagine what this is like. These guys show up, 20 of them. Take the cell phones, take the cameras, take all electronics, handcuff everybody for 10 hours.
I'm at a loss of words. I know this stuff happens, Vincent, and I think your listeners need to really pay attention. Everything you say or do can be used against you, and this is, where we are losing our freedoms now more than ever.
And it says here on the website, it turns out that one of the police detectives was able to go ahead and request a warrant after performing online research on the compound. Compound? I wonder if they think I live in a compound. I live on a farm. Okay? There are certain buzzwords that they thought would require a warrant. Anyway, the bottom line is the judge was wrong. The SWAT team was wrong. And what really has to happen is these cops, these snipers, these SWAT team, they're killers. They're trained killers. They're trained to be killers. They need to say no. They need to say no. Don't you think that we're going above and beyond? It's like the story in New York City. The SWAT team raids apartment 504. They bash down the door. The old man and his wife are watching TV. He dies of a heart attack. And they're looking for drugs. They're always looking for drugs. Give me a break. They really got the wrong apartment. They were one floor off. They bashed down the apartment. They really meant the floor above them or the floor below them. They made a mistake and the guy dies because of the tactics that these guys use. You know, most of us have telephones. Mine is listed on the internet. My phone is listed on the internet. I'm not hiding. So if these cops, these thugs, they want to call me, they can call me. And I can just see it, Frank. I can just see it. They come on the property, the dogs bark, they kill the dogs. They come in the house, the dogs bark, they kill the dogs. Now, what would they expect me to do when they do that? Start shooting my animals, my livelihood, my protection. What would they expect me to do? What would they expect any farmer to do?
Shoot your livestock. You know, this is where we're going, and we're coming into this is that.
Oh, boy. You know, it's a good thing we have breaks because what I was talking about really bothered me. You know, a fellow farmer being raided by a SWAT team and his neighbors being occupied, their houses and farms being occupied. We got a caller from New York. Michael, you're on with Frank Underhill and me, Vincent Finelli.
Yes. Hey, good morning, Vince.
Hey, good morning.
You know, your guest is spot on that we have to address these law enforcement representatives as what they really are, the goose-stepping, jackbooted Gestapo that they are. And everybody should print out a copy of the photo that you'll get off an internet search when you type in swastika building at U.S. Navy base. You'll get a top-down image shot from a satellite of a perfect swastika building at our own U.S. Navy base, and shove it in the face of all these guys, law enforcement in particular. Present it to them, but if you ever come across any of these stormtroopers, you shove it right in their face. Say, hey, my family fought against this crap, mister. And we're not tolerating that here. And because this is where we're heading if we do not do such things, if we do not keep reminding the current generations of Americans of the history, the most recent history this country had, and all of the various factors that led up to a fascist state or a Bolshevik state in Germany or Russia, or even in communist China, all the same particular factors occurring here incrementally, then we will become that as well. So I show that photograph all the time to as many people as I can to get them thinking. And, of course, most of the time, they're stunned because they don't even have a clue. So when they see these jackbooted thugs parading around, stormtrooping around with the goggles, the black Nazi-looking helmets, all dressed in black, it doesn't dawn on them yet because they don't know their history. But that is a great refresher as soon as they see that and you tell them, yeah, that's our Navy base. The Nazis are here, the Bolsheviks are here, and this is what they're trying to do to us if we do not stop it.
And history has a tendency to repeat itself, and I appreciate your call. And, caller, like, you're from New York, like, this stop and frisk, what happens when they start saying the papers are not in order? The papers are not in order. Rausten, schnell, schnell. And they put you into the car and drive you off. And I just think for your mayor, being of his faith, he should be sensitive to that. And I never heard of this until I saw it on CNN myself. I'm stunned to see it. I didn't think that this could happen, especially where 9/11 happened, where people can get stopped randomly and frisked for no reason.
Yes, exactly. 9/11 is our Reichstag fire, and that's another event that people must be constantly reminded of. I can't get over how many people are still stunned when I tell them, 3 buildings came down, right? Huh? What do you mean 3? So you don't know about number 7? Never got hit by a plane? Why did that come straight down within seconds as well? And so 9/11 is where it all started, and we have to keep addressing that because that is still a wide-open case that has not been resolved to the American people properly. It's clearly an inside job. A Reichstag fire event for sure is what it is. And, yeah, I mean, I will never tolerate such activity coming out of my government. At the individual level, I'll let them know, hey, guys, you're going to do the goose step next? I mean, Sieg Heil, or, get the KGB going? Is that next, guys? Because my family fought against that crap. And there's no way I'm tolerating it. And when the day comes and we're having the fight for our freedoms, I will know who the enemy is.
Vincent, I like your listener's analogy. It is the Reichstag fire. And for your listeners who don't know what that was, that's when the Reichschancellery was burned and Hitler blamed it on communists and subversives and the like and used that as his leverage to do what he did. And I think the Reichstag fire in 9/11, I think that's it, because, ever since then, now we got Predator drones in the news every day. We got security in the news every day. We got, terrorism every day. And because of this, our freedoms are really, really encroached on.
Class, it's really interesting. I get a chance to talk to our producers at GCN, and I get a chance to talk to the program director and the management. And every once in a while I'll ask, you guys get any complaints about us? Do you know they've never gotten a single complaint? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that they have not gotten, Genesis has not gotten a single complaint? And neither have any of our other affiliates. Seriously. Except for KWTO. They got 2 complaints when I first started. One person said, if you don't like this country, why don't you leave it? And the other complaint was one of our instructors talked about drinking milk from a 2,000-pound animal, a 1-ton animal, a cow. And a farmer called up because he thought that was an exaggeration. Michael from New York, you're still with us, Frank Underhill. Michael, did you have any other thoughts you want to share with us about this building in the shape, if you look at it from the air, it's a perfect swastika. It really is, at a U.S. naval base. And you can, class, you can get to it. Just go to, excuse me?
I'm sorry, Vince. That's
Navy
Coronado
base.
Navy Base, right off San Diego.
Yeah. Yep. And you can, class, you can just type in swastika, U.S. Navy Base, and look at the images. You'll see it. There's hundreds of them. Hundreds of images. Now, the question is, who approved that design? Who approved that design? Now, it was submitted by an architect, and did somebody look at it only from the side view? Didn't anybody look at it from the air? You know, they could have made the buildings in the shape of a U, an S, and an A. They could have done that. Because there's several buildings in a row. They could have done that. And it could have been a really neat architectural design. No. Nope. They made it in the shape of a Nazi swastika. But however, somebody might say, well, you know, the Nazis didn't originate the swastika. It came from indigenous people years and years and years and years before that, and it meant good luck. So maybe that's their way out. But it's a stretch. It's a stretch.
It's very offensive.
Michael, anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, it's offensive, that image, and people went to war to fight against that image. And the fact that that image is on United States soil is ludicrous. And I think I liked your listener there when he's talking about the Reichstag fire. Like I wouldn't have drawn that parallel, but when you think of it, and when you had all the monuments and the eulogy of the victims at the Reichstag, well, we had the same thing here, and of course that led on to the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, finding, you know. Yeah, wow. You should have this listener as a guest one of these days, Vincent.
Well,
okay.
You're doing,
Michael,
you're
if you want to do it, give me a
job,
call, send me an email.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. But you're doing a great job, and that's why
thanks so much.
I wanted to... Vince, you still there?
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
No, your guest is spot on. And, you know, Vince, you're absolutely right. There has been statements that, well, it's a good luck symbol. Yeah, well, just like your guest said, that is highly offensive for an American, especially on military soil, that fought against them scumbags just so many decades ago. That is outrageous to even imply. Well, they're using it as a good luck symbol now. But in addition to the Reichstag Fire 9/11 event, let's also recall immediately the Unpatriot Act and Homeland Insecurity. Sieg Heil, their fatherland, the motherland. Since when, as Americans, do we call our beloved Union of the United States of America as homeland? Only the Nazis and the Bolsheviks use those terms. And so now there's another tactic, another symptom of the same tactics being implemented here against the American people to slide them into either a totally fascist or a Bolshevik state.
You know, between that and Camp FEMA, and we saw the experiment in New Orleans and mobile homes with, wire perimeter, it's all surreal.
And got to get your guns. You're not allowed to have guns. There's another symptom of these tactics. You're not allowed to have guns, so you cannot defend yourselves as we slide you into the goose-stepping state. And so, you guys, it's all lining up perfectly. The most recent history is now repeating itself.
Thank you.
Michael and Frank, I'd like to share something with you in case this ever makes the media. In the studio with me right now, in Missouri, I have a photograph. It's about 18 by 24 inches. It's a photograph. It's not a print. It's not a litho. It's an actual photograph taken of LZ 129, the Hindenburg, with 2 swastika flags on the tail. It's a photograph that came from a colonel's office in Lakehurst, New Jersey. And I bought it I bought it at a flea market because it was so impressive. And it reminded me of what could happen. And it reminded me of my uncles who fought against the Nazis. And that's why I have that in the studio. And I also have a litho of the first 23 presidents. It's very old. It's also in the studio, about the same size, 18 by 24. And I also have a photograph of of an aircraft, a biplane. From World War I in the studio, and I have another photograph of a U.S. Army air base, U.S. Army Air Force in around 1900, or I'm sorry, around 1919. So I have these in the studio with me, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm a Nazi. I am not. These are reminders of what could have happened, and the people that our family fought against. So if you hear in the news that talk show host has Nazi memorabilia in the studio, now you know why. Michael, thanks so much for being with us.
That's excellent, Vincent. And keep reminding everybody with your guests often, because the Americans have such a short memory. They need constant reminders of all this. So I appreciate it, guys, very much. God bless you all. God bless the United States Constitutional Republic forever.
Thank you.
Michael, thanks so much. Frank, we've got some great students here, and I believe that if you were to build a team of USAPrepares.com students on Genesis Communications or Big Country 99, The Rooster, or any of our affiliates, and go head-to-head with the Ditto Heads or any other broadcaster, I think we'd beat them. I think we have the best and brightest class on radio. I really mean that. Frank, we said we were going to talk about oil. What is happening with oil? And let's tie that to what's happening with Egypt right now. Egypt is restless, very restless, and the military they're killing people. They're shooting them. They're killing them dead. What's happening with oil?
If you look at Egypt, they control a very vital waterway in the Suez Canal there. It's between Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, and that waterway is controlled by Egypt. And I think that when you look at the uncertainty over, actually, I think the whole country can, frankly, implode into strife and civil war the way it's going right now, because you got a lot of power grabbing going on there. I think that has a lot to do with the rise in crude, and also concurrently the drifting of the U.S. dollar again is also another cause for the dollar, for the oil to rise. And oil, unlike gold, is also a commodity that's transportable, that's utilized, that we need. And when you have that disrupting in crude supply and a drifting dollar, of course, this is only going to lead to higher prices at the pump. Like around here, oil gas is $3.65 a gallon. And I also believe that you'll see inflation come in. If this thing spills over, like the longer it takes, the worse it's going to get. And you don't know what regime is going to be running that waterway on the canal. People should tune in a little bit. If you don't like watching the news, that so be it. But just see what goes on in Egypt. It's very alarming, and especially when they're probably one of the more modern countries in the Arab world right now, going through this. So it's I thought things were a lot more safe when Hosni Mubarak was running the place, but obviously you see what they've done with the with Arab Spring or whatever they and these governments toppling, and you're seeing it right now, and unfortunately we as the American people are going to be paying for it. We are now.
Frank, when I buy oil for the farm, I typically buy it in the hottest part of the summer, which is right about now. It should have been right about now. And the reason I do that is nobody wants oil right now, fuel oil. And home heating oil, diesel oil number 2, fuel oil, it's all the same thing. The difference is the color and the tax. So they add red dye if it's farm fuel or home heating oil, non-taxed for road use, or they dye it green if it's going to be tax paid, 44 cents a gallon tax added to the fuel. Farmers don't have to pay road use tax because they don't use farm diesel on the road. They don't use it in their trucks. We don't use it in our trucks. We use it in our farm tractors. So we can save the price of the road tax. Well, I decided to hold off and buy our supply of diesel fuel for about now, because that's the lowest price typically. And of course, we go and get involved with this in Egypt. I'm sure we're involved. And so now there's some concern about the canal being cut off and the price of oil is going up. Frank, so what I'm saying is not only is this hurting the motorist and the people who work in insurance offices and government buildings and hospitals, but it's really going to kill the farmers. It's just one more nail in the coffin of the small farm.
And we'll see those prices translate in the pump and in the meat section. I mean, at the bread, the bakery, and the meat section.
Oh, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad because I've never seen farms in such a state of disrepair as I see in the Ozark Mountains right now. Farmers can't afford to do anything. We'll be right back. Class, I'm looking at the price of home heating oil. Home heating oils, to me, is the same as farm diesel oil. Now, the market price, now that's not the price that we would pay. We'd have to pay probably another 15 cents a gallon to get this fuel delivered. But the spot price 10 days ago was $2.75 a gallon, $2.75 a gallon. Today, it's $3.08. So there's been this saber rattling in Egypt. The government has killed a whole bunch of people. And the price has gone up 33 cents per gallon, 13% in 10 days. 13% in 10 days. So, Frank, that's a cause for concern. That's a cause for concern because when farmers buy fuel, if they buy, let's say, 3,000 gallons, it's like $10,000. So 13% is significant to farmers that are just barely surviving. Frank, what's going on with China, and what's the connection to Walmart?
Well, you're looking at China going through a slowdown, and I think because Walmart imports a lot of their product from China, they may not be able to fill orders as quickly. So I think anything you need from Walmart, go now. And I think when you look at the Chinese industrial output, how it's peaked out and now it's coming down very sharply, I would load up on what you need, because who knows if it might be there, it might not be there when you need it in a year or two down the road. But again, China's slowdown, I think, could really impact consumers here, who, of course, have a appetite for inexpensive imported goods, and they also are not using as many metals. But there's one note I saw somewhere that China was actually buying more gold. So basically, just keep your eye on what goes on there, because, of course, whether you like it or not, China is an exporting country, economic powerhouse. If anyone just goes on internet and put in the city of Tianjin, China, and look at their port, you'll see how massive it is. And just something that caught my eye that I thought I would pass on to your listeners.
Frank, I've noticed, I'm glad you mentioned this, because I've noticed that when I want to buy something on the internet that I think is a good price, if I hesitate and say, you know what, let me make sure I've got all my ducks in a row, and I want to make sure that I need 7 of them or 6 of them or 3 of them or whatever the number might be, what I'm finding out is that by the time I get back and go to buy it and click, buy it, it's gone. So what I'm saying, class, is I believe that shortages are developing in the marketplace. That's what I'm seeing when I go to buy things that are at a good price on the internet. I'm not talking about stealing them. I'm talking about paying a fair price, not a outrageous price where we're being gouged.
You're a value
and
shopper,
for example,
Vincent.
I really am.
Yeah.
And let me give you an example. I'm looking on eBay right now. There is that we're talking about, that hard start kit for compressors. There is a buy it now for $15.50 with free shipping. That's good. The next one is $22 with free shipping. The next one, let's see, the next one is $10. But that's it. After that, you're looking at spending $30 and $40. There aren't very many left, at the good price. So what I'm saying is, if you find it and you think you need it, I think you ought to get it before you can't get it. Seriously. And in the case of these hard start kits, Frank, if you have a bad compressor, what would you do? What would you do with that food? Where would you get a replacement refrigerator? Could you get somebody to show up and fix it, within a few hours? I don't think so, especially on a weekend. Frank Underhill, thanks so much for being with us. And if you'd like to contact Frank Underhill, I'll give you his number. You can call him right after the broadcast, which is right now. 702-987-5449. 702-987-5449. Meet up tonight, class. It's always free. 5:30 Ziggy's. We're going to learn about self-defense tactics. Physical self-defense tactics. Class, above all, honesty and integrity